Faz?
I'm doing great, brother. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to talk to you on the Sports Buzz.
It's been a long time, but I think it's been 2 months maybe since we've done our show.
Yeah, I think it was the beginning of baseball season. I think it was the last one.
I think so. So let's do the intro, man. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm dying to do this.
Let's do it, pal.
Let's do it, man. Welcome to Matt.
Welcome to Matt and Faz
Sports
Buzz, baby.
Yeah.
How you doing, pal?
Good, man.
All right. Well, I'm watching a little bit of the basketball highlights and stuff. I know the finals start tomorrow, so I'm pretty geeked up about it.
Finals start tomorrow.
Yes.
What do you think? What do you think about the overall picture? What do you think? How's it looking for the Lakers versus the Magic?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. I'm wrong up till now. I called Cleveland and the Lakers. I think where a lot of people stood in the beginning of the playoffs, and obviously Cleveland didn't walk through, and so I'm gonna defer to the best player on the floor, and I'm gonna defer to Kobe Bryant to win his first championship without Shaq.
I'm calling the Lakers in 6, Faz.
You're going in 6?
I'm calling the Lakers in 6. I mean, that's going against every grain in my body because you know I'm a Celtics fan.
Right, but I don't think it has nothing to do with it.
Oh, of course it does. It does because Phil Jackson will surpass my hero for 9 championships. He'll have 10 championships.
Yes, well, that's true, and that is true.
So, but I'm betting with my head, not my heart.
Well, it's tough to do with as a Celtics fan, and I give you credit for that.
I mean, it's just basically an analytical call, I guess you could say, on my part, that I think the Lakers are going to beat the Magic. In my heart, I'd like to see Orlando win, but from an analytical standpoint, it sure is. It's hard to bet against the Lakers, Faz.
Well, this is the first time I think that you and I have really been on opposite ends. I am pulling for the Lakers for the first time since 1990. I didn't pull for the Lakers in any of their championship runs with Shaq on the team, but I'm just not a fan of Orlando basketball, and so I'm gonna pull for the Lakers.
Tell me why you don't like Orlando, Faz.
I don't like their style of play, and it's not a blast up against them. They're obviously winners. You know, I think my favorite player on that team is Rashard Lewis, any guy who's 6'10" and can play with the range that he has.
Yeah.
Actually to slash. I mean, he's an athletic Dirk Nowitzki. He's a big guy who can hit the 3-pointer, slash to the inside. I like the kid's style. I really do respect Dwight Howard. Orlando is a class team. I'm not going to blast them for that. I think Dwight Howard has shown nothing but class. I think they might be making a mistake by bringing Jameer Nelson into the fold.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought, Paz. I thought that would upset the chemistry that they had. I mean, Orlando style of basketball. I mean, exclusive that use that high screen roll, dumping the ball to Howard. You know, I mean, LA's offense is much more varied. You know what I mean? I think they're going to be more difficult to contain.
No. For me, I look at the two teams, and I think you got two superstars. And they're very different. It's not like, if you had Kobe and LeBron versus each other, well, you get pretty similar superstars. But you have a superstar in a center, and a superstar in a shooting guard. And
Jordan.
I don't know. I just think that bingo. And I think that shooting guard in the triangle offense actually wins, and especially if it's a good shooting guard. And I think Kobe Bryant. I'm not going to call him Michael Jordan, but I do think he's better than Dwight Howard as a player.
I mean, with the notable exception of Howard, I think the Magic aren't nearly as physical as the Nuggets were, and the Nuggets gave the Lakers a hard time.
They did. They gave them a very hard time, but it did not go 7 games, and so when we talk about hard time, we talk about the Celtics who gave Orlando an extremely hard time without Kevin Garnett, without Leon Poe, without a very effective Ray Allen, and without a very effective Paul Pierce, I might add too. So and that went 7 games.
I mean, if you want to look back to last year's championship, the Celtics were a much better team than the Magic.
So, the Celtics of last year, they might have been the most well-rounded team I'd seen, and probably since Jordan's Bulls. I mean, there was no weak points on them last year. They played great defense.
Yeah.
They had Kevin Garnett leading that team. They had Paul Pierce, who was the MVP. You had a rising star in Rajon Rondo and Ray Allen, who could shoot the lights out of the ball. And so I think that team was unstoppable. I think. I don't think that the Lakers are facing a team like that this year. I think they're facing a 3-point shooting team, and they're going to have to find a way to neutralize Dwight Howard. And I think in the long run, I don't think Bynum can live up to Howard, but I do think that Bynum can at least hold him to 20 and 10. And somebody else is going to have to step up and be huge for Orlando, and I don't know that they have that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Buzz. I think Odom to me is the barometer for LA. I mean, if Odom is playing good ball, I mean, it's really hard to beat the Lakers. And I mean, Phil Jackson's championship teams have had the same modus operandi. I mean, take 2, 3, or sometimes 4 games to learn how to play the opponents. And then, they find out use of personnel and then they go for the kill. So
if we're going to look at coaching, hands down, Phil Jackson over Stan Van Gundy.
I mean, I think Stan Van Gundy's a great leader. I think he's shown he can make crucial calls at last minute when he needs them. Some crucial plays.
He might be, but he needs to win this series to prove it. This is his first finals.
I agree.
So he needs to win this series to show that he's a championship caliber coach, and we'll see if he's got it in him. I know you and I spoke about a couple months ago. We talked about All NBA team, and I called my All NBA coach Phil Jackson. Although I really don't want Phil to break Red Auerbach's record, but if he does on this team, he's earned it on this team. Teams before, he had Michael Jordan, he had Scottie Pippen, he had Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. If he wins it now, I think he's coached himself to a championship, and a deserving championship at that.
I think that's a good point. How do you think Gasol's going to match up against Howard defensively? I mean, he's got those long arms. I know he doesn't have the weight Howard has, but he has some good shot blocking. He's got some long.
I would assume that Phil Jackson will not put Gasol on Howard. I think that Phil Jackson will put Bynum on Howard defensively. I could be wrong. We'll see what happens, but I think Bynum's more physical. I think Bynum has more of a he could post up defensively, against Howard. I don't think that Gasol can do that. And I think if it's Gasol versus Howard, I think Gasol's in trouble. But I think Bynum could actually match up with him.
I think he's got more speed than Gasol. I mean, Gasol favors that left box position quite a bit.
And Gasol is I think he's much more offensively skilled than Howard, but I don't think he's the player that Howard is. I don't think that his athleticism and his strength compare to what Howard has.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And Dwight Howard, I tell you what, here's a guy who's straight out of high school and has proven himself to be a true leader of the team. He was vocal against Stan Van Gundy in that Celtics series, which turned everything around.
People were criticizing him about that. They should never call your coach out, but it did seem to kind of inject some new life into the Magic.
Yeah, and he didn't call his coach out in a way that was.
He did it publicly. I mean, that's kind of like
he did.
Forbidden.
You're right about that.
Unspoken code.
Yes, but he wasn't.